Welcome to the AV-42C. First, let's keep the bird from rolling away by using the brake. Now let's move on to the startup sequence. First, turn on the main battery. This will store power for all the electronic equipment on the aircraft. Now start the auxiliary power unit, or APU. This will keep the battery charged while we complete the startup sequence. Wait a moment to allow the APU to spool up. We're now ready to start up the engines. Keep an eye on the engine gauges and wait for the RPM to settle. The engines are now supplying electrical power, so we can turn off the APU. Now we can turn on the heads-up display. The HUD, or heads-up display, shows you attitude, altitude, velocity, targeting reticles, and other important flight data at a glance. Now turn on the multifunction displays, or MFDs. The MFDs give you access to aircraft features such as weapon configuration, navigation maps, sensors, and etc. You can access these features by pressing the corresponding buttons around the edge of the monitor. You'll learn more about the features of the MFDs in a later tutorial. The vehicle is now ready to fly. In the next tutorial, we'll talk about basic flight controls, taxiing, takeoff, and landing. The main flight controls are the joystick and throttle. You can grip them by holding the grip buttons, or toggle lock your hands to them by tapping the grip buttons. Let's start with taxiing. Grab onto the main flight controls now. To steer the front wheel, you will have to twist the joystick on the vertical axis. In order to get moving, we need to tilt the engines to the forward position. Start by holding the throttle trigger to lock the wheel brakes. Then, press and hold up on the throttle thumb control to tilt the engines forward. The indicator here shows the status of the engine tilt. Now if you release the brakes and slightly lift the throttle lever, you will start to roll. Apply small amounts of throttle or brakes to control your speed. Don't go too fast. Try taxiing over to the marked waypoints. Okay, stop here. Throttle down and hold the throttle brake trigger. Let's prepare for a conventional takeoff. Set the brake lock so you can free up your hands. Remember, if your hands are locked to the controls, you have to tap the grip buttons to release them. Set the flaps to position 1. Make sure all flight assists are enabled. They should be already. Double check that the engines are tilted all the way forward. The indicator should read 0. Now grab, while holding the brakes with your left hand, you can disable the brake lock with your right hand. Okay, now taxi onto runway 20. Now to take off, raise the throttle to full and steer to keep aligned with the runway. Keep speeding up, straight down. Now carefully rotate the joystick. Great, you're in the air. Now you can raise the landing gear and set flaps to 0.
Landing gear.
Now gently steer your nose up to about 20 degrees and keep climbing.
Landing gear. Landing gear. Landing gear. Landing gear. Landing gear.
Let's practice with the basic flight controls. Rotate the joystick left or right to roll towards your target. Rotate the joystick forward or back to pitch your nose towards it. This icon on the heads-up display shows your velocity vector, which is the direction you're actually moving. Fly over to the target waypoint. Try to keep your movement smooth and avoid pulling too hard, as this can cause a stall. Great. Fly over to the next waypoint.
Over T. Over T.
Great flying. Now let's try landing at the airbase. Start your landing at the next waypoint. Bring your speed down as you approach it. This will be a conventional landing on the runway.
Over T. Over T.
Line up with the runway and continue to bring your speed down. You can use the trigger on the throttle to control the air brakes. Free your left hand to bring your flaps and landing gear down. Then continue to bring your speed down. Maintain your speed and glide slope. Keep your vector on the target.
Altitude.
Touchdown. Gently bring your nose down now.
Over T.
Keep Congratulations. This concludes the basic flight tutorial. Next time, we'll make use of the tilting engines and practice vertical takeoffs and landings.